बेड़ियां पिघाल के बना ले अपने शस्त्र तू खुद की खोज में निकल, तू किस लिए हताश है। तू चल, तेरे वजूद की समय को भी तलाश है। जला के भस्म कर उसे जो क्रूरता का जाल है। तू आरती की लौ नहीं, तू क्रोध की मशाल है, तू क्रोध की मशाल है।
Good afternoon to everyone present here. We are honored to have you all again with us.
Henceforth, we would like to start our second session on all women rights are human rights, myth or reality, with our esteemed panelist, Dr. DPS Punia, Associate Professor, Central University, Mahendragarh, Dr. R.S. Solanki, Head of Department, School of Law, Mody University, Lakshmangarh. I would like to request our student to escort all the panelists to take their respective seats on the dais.
We are profusely overjoyed to take this opportunity to introduce our chairpersons for the day. Dr. Dharampal Singh Punia, sir, is an Associate Professor of Law in Central University of Haryana, Mahendragarh. He has published more than 100 research papers in various national and international renowned journals. Please welcome Dr. Dharampal Singh Punia with a huge round of applause.
The co-chairperson for this session is Dr. R.S. Solanki, Head of Department, School of Law, Mody University. Sir has completed his PhD on critical analysis of role played by market regulators. He had written books on varied issues and several articles for national and international journals. Everyone, please put your hand together for Dr. R.S. Solanki, sir. We are extremely privileged to have you all here today.
Now I would like to request our panelists to permit us to commence the second session.
Thank you, sir. All the presenters will be provided by 3 to 5 minutes to present their respective papers. Now, I would like to call our first presenter, Mr. Dau Sharma from St. Wilfrid's Law College, Jaipur. Our next presenter is Mr. Abhinav Joshi from St. Wilfrid's College, Jaipur.
The next speaker is Ms. Sonia Balkrishna Shirodkar from Goa University. The next presenter is Vishakha Shekhawat from Jaipur University.
The next presenter is Ms. Shraddha Sharma. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Please.
Greetings to the bench, all the members present here, Dean sir. Since the topic is women rights are human rights, myth or reality, so for many feminist scholars, in spite of a concerted effort by the international community towards the international legislation on women's rights as human rights, including the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, 1979. The only matter for contention surrounding the human rights is not whether there are gender equal, but rather whether the entire concept of human rights is gender biased or gender blind. While there are overwhelming numbers of examples of violations against women, of all the aspects including their political, social, economic rights. I would like to say that these rights had been conceptualized in a way that did not take account of women's law or the lives and the fact that women routinely face violence, discrimination, and oppression. Consequently, women's experiences were until relatively recently not adequately addressed by the human rights framework. The work of activist human rights mechanism and states has been critical in ensuring that the human rights framework has grown and adjusted to encapsulate the gender-specific dimensions of human rights violation in order to better protect the women. Effectively ensuring the women's human rights requires a comprehensive understanding of the underlying societal structures and power relations that define and influence the women's ability to enjoy their human rights. These power structures have an impact on all the aspects of life, from law and politics to economic and social policy, family and community life. So, following the sections examine some of the key concepts that are very critical to the protection of the women's human right. To some, I would quote the private and the public divide, whereby the human law requires every state agents to respect, protect, and fulfill all the human rights standards and the rules established in the international, regional, and national levels. I would say that if I'm talking about the Indian Constitution, human rights, we know that it is what we are possessing by virtue of being humans. So since the title says that all the women's rights are human rights, I would say that all women's rights are human rights because this is nothing which have been enshrined. This is something which we possess. And it is just we need the recognition for that. So historically, these set of rules and the scrutiny have focused on actions which are directly attributable to the state agents based on their commission or their acquiescence such as killings, torture, arbitrary detention. The obligation of the states to respect the human rights, including the women's rights, they are the obligations to refrain from doing anything that could violate those rights. Furthermore, any wrong which is committed within the private sphere without any direct intervention by the state agents was not considered a human right. With this, I would like to conclude that, however, it is now recognized that the obligations of the state to protect and fulfill the human rights clearly encompass the duty to protect the women from violations committed by the third parties. And so we are focusing on the laws which just not only provide for the penalties, but rather promote on the protection of the women's rights for giving them protection of the human rights. Thanking you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next presenter is Ms. Anu Khan from Mody University.
Good afternoon to everyone who are present here. Respected Dean Sir, dignitaries and guest faculty members, teachers, and my dear friends. My name is Anu Khan. I'm a research scholar from Mody University in School of Law. The title of my paper is Right to Privacy and Modesty of Women. First of all, what we understand about privacy. Privacy defined as right to be let alone. Right to privacy has always been considered as an important human right. The objective of right to privacy is to protect citizens from the arbitrary intervention of the state authorities and other actors. In 2017, in the case of K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India, gave right to privacy a status of fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution in right to life and personal liberty. Privacy is a central part of many women's rights movements and probably the most important for sexual minorities. Women and sexual minorities suffer indiscrimination in today's society concerning the protection of their privacy. The vast changes brought about by the digital age also make women more vulnerable. Right of sexual minorities, the LGBTQ plus community, sexual acts against the order of nature were criminalized under Section 377 of IPC, which was struck down in 2018 in the judgment of Navjot Singh Johar versus Union of India. Dowry death, Section 304 IPC, outraged the modesty of women under Section 354 IPC, sexual harassment, 354A, voyeurism, 354D, insult to the modesty of women, 509, cruelty by husband and their relatives, and other forms of bodily and assault and violence are common crimes against women in India. Right to privacy is a vital ingredient for the proper development of an individual's personality and identity. As we saw, Indian law gives a lot of protection to women victims of bodily assault. Lack of judicious and careless implementation of law and careless attitude of government machinery do not reassure the Indian woman to voice her injustice before the law enforcing agencies. Socio-economic conditions of our patriarchal society also force her to remain silent. What we're talking about, the legal status of marital rape in India. Under Section 375 IPC, the exception says sexual intercourse between husband and wife above 15 years is not a rape if wife had no consent. India is one of the 36 countries in the world that do not criminalize marital rape. A huge discussion and recommendation is going on to struck down the exception of Section 375 and brought the major wife also included to be the subject of rape. Now, the critical analysis of my topic is said Supreme Court judgment in K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India has offered us new insights and thoughts to our understanding of privacy and how it affects women. Let's get it to be real. What is the position of women inside her home? Particularly, we are talking about the weaker and marginalized society. Is her home a place of sanctity and peace, or a place of oppression, violence, and abuse? Does she enjoy equal rights as that of her husband? Can she exercise her right to be let alone? We all know that all this are free from truth. Women in their homes are not independent and free. They have no right to privacy. That despite of being a fundamental right, women are deprived of this right. Now, I want to suggest on this regard, the policymakers who are responsible for the forming laws on which the country operates needs us realize that privacy concern regarding women cannot be properly addressed until people acknowledge the ingrained social structures. The United Nations Human Rights Council and the United Nations General Assembly has expressed concern and appreciated that violations and abuses of the right to privacy in the digital age may affect all individuals with particular effect on women as well as children and persons in vulnerable situations and marginalized groups. In this digital era, when the invention of privacy is very easy, we therefore need to realize that enactment of suitable privacy laws with a greater affirmative focus on women and other weaker sections of the society and their rigorous implementation in the order of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next presenter is Shraddha Sharma from Jaipur.
बालिका अहम बालिका, नवयुग जानीता अहम बालिका, ना हम बला ना दुर्बला, आदि शक्ति अहम अंबिका. I am a girl of modern times. I am not feeble, powerless. I am Adi Shakti. I am Shakti. Namaskar to each and everyone who are present here, my teachers, my friends, and all the juniors. All juniors, everybody who is present here. Why? Because I'm the first batch student here at Mody, and thank you. And I stand here in a very proud position and thanking all my being today to Dean Sir for molding me into the woman that I have become today. Thank you, sir. So the topic for today's discussion being that human rights for women are myth or are they real? And I chose the topic that in contemporary India, they have become a myth. Otherwise, in ancient societies where we used to follow our shrutis, our smritis, and each and every ancient book, they were not there. Why? Because men and women, they were treated as equals. Our Rig Ved, Sam Ved, they all said that a human body consists of two beings, male and female, both in one. We never differentiated between a woman and man separately. Why? Don't we have masculine traits? Don't men have feminine traits? Don't they have a heart where they see a weak and poor one? Or is it the woman who does not have a brave heart when she needs to stand for herself? Then why are we talking about co-equals today? It is after the mercantile European style that was being bought by the Britishers. Once we were governed by foreign entities, we lost our roots. What are the roots? What we used to follow? We forgot everything. And in the name of modernization, we took a U-turn. And what was the U-turn? A deep ruckus of forgetting what equality is. Today, we are again accepting this thing that give human rights to the women, give equality to women. It was Britishers who brought this norm that women will not inherit the property which has been held by the father. We had equality. And after freedom, what we saw, it is only recently it has been upheld again. Why? Because we forgot where we come from. We forgot what we stood for. And today, again, we are asking for equality. And much more shameless thing, human rights for women, for not being considered as human. Is it not a shame for this society? Is it not a shame for us? With this pondering thought, I would just leave this to you all, whether to get back to what we used to believe or continue the modernization. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next presenter is Dr. Puja Jain from School of Law, Mody University.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Puja Jain here. Greetings to our extreme panel, respected Dean Sir, faculties, and all my dear friends. Role of women in protection of traditional knowledge and indigenous peoples' human rights. First of all, let us know what is traditional knowledge. Traditional knowledge refers to a body of knowledge developed over generations by indigenous peoples living in close contact with nature. It is practical common sense based on teachings and experiences passed on from generation to generation. We all must have heard about Dadi Nani ke nuske. लाइक अगर छोटे बच्चे का अगर पेट दर्द हो रहा है तो हम क्या यूज़ करते हैं, अगर किसी को कोई फोकलोर सुनाना है, कोई कहानी है, कोई लोरी है, दीज आर ऑल पार्ट ऑफ ट्रेडिशनल नॉलेज. This is passed from one generation to the other. It is holistic, it cannot be compartmentalized and separated from the people who hold it. It is rooted in the spiritual health, culture, and language of the people. It is a way of life. You must have heard about Ruma Devi from Barmer, Rajasthan. What she has done? She has passed the knowledge, the skill, the traditional knowledge which she has learned from her grandmother to the other holistic and native women who were vulnerable, and not only help them to develop themselves but to protect the traditional knowledge of eclectic form. Indigenous peoples are distinct social and cultural groups that share collective ancestral ties to the lands and natural resources where they live, often known as native peoples. The international and national movement of indigenous peoples has since the 1970s articulated indigenous peoples' aspirations in human rights. Indigenous women and men have struggled together at national, regional, and international fora to define and promote the human rights of indigenous people and protection of traditional knowledge as well. According to Article 2 of Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples adopted in General Assembly, they are the individuals free and equal to all other people and have the right to be free from any kind of identity. In recent years, indigenous women have made important strides in advancing their rights as women and as indigenous peoples through the use of a human rights framework, posting individual rights as women's and inextricably linked indigenous women work to secure these interrelated rights using international human rights. International human rights instruments such as the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. With this, indigenous women seek to protect and advance the fundamental principle of human rights, including the individuality and the universality of human rights, inflecting each with a unique indigenous women's perspective, the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, to promote their rights as women and the collective rights of indigenous peoples, taking gender and the principle of non-discrimination into account. A strong woman knows she has strength enough for the journey, but a woman of strength knows it is in the journey where she will become strong. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Our next presenters are Ms. Simran Agarwal and Ms. Raksha Kochar from Mody University.
Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exceptions. As well said by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, former American lawyer and former jurist of Supreme Court, US. Good afternoon to all the honorable guests and my fellow mates. Today I, Simran Agarwal,
I, Raksha Kochar.
we are going to present our research paper, and the title for research paper is Channeling a Journey from Womanhood to Jurisdiction. Justice phenomena are not new in the world. Earlier it was done by the rulers, and now it is being done in a more structured manner in courts, with judges and lawyers being one of its pillars. This research paper focuses on the combating the mindset that women are incapable of practicing in the judiciary in India. It sets a gaudy picture in everyone's mind when it comes to equitable representation. Our judicial system in ancient, medieval and even today is surrounded by male chauvinism. As India is one of the most successful democratic nations, it is still battling gender biases and detriments. Moving on with the next point, even our constitution mentions the fact that equals should be treated equally. Then who are we to create barriers for the women who are asking for their rights? This scenario is not only in India, but in other developed and developing nations as well, countries like UK, US, China, etc. In UK, there are only 33 female judges in the higher courts, whereas in the US, the women occupy 1/3 of the place in the judiciary. So the problem is being faced by all the nations. Difference is just of the pace at which more female judges are being appointed. Now moving on with the next point.
The Global Gender Gap Index 2021, published by World Economic Forum, examines the gap between males and females in broadly 4 dimensions: political empowerment, health and survival, economic participation and opportunity, and educational attainment. India stands at 140 out of 156 countries, which is a very poor rank in comparison to other neighboring nations like Sri Lanka, Mauritius, Malaysia, Myanmar, China, Nepal, etc. has better ranking than India. Countries like Pakistan and Afghanistan remain at the bottom. This index currently showed that India needs to work very hard to bridge the gap of the gender. Currently speaking, in India, there are only 4 female judges out of 33 in the Apex Court of India. Recently, a speech given by CJI Ramana talked about the 50% reservation of women in judiciary, who further stated that women asking for reservation is her right and not a mercy upon her. I repeat, reservation asking by her is her right and not a mercy upon her. We also conducted a survey on women in judiciary and justice system, where people have agreed to the fact that women are underrepresented in judiciary, gender discrimination exists, gender stereotyping prevails, gender biased wage gaps are still being faced by the women in some or the other ways in the legal profession. Now looking into the other aspect, sometimes when a female victim is presented before the court, she feels uncomfortable in talking about the incident in front of male judges, especially in cases of rape, sexual harassment, and mental harassment. Female victims would be more comfortable in reciting about the incident to female judges. Like in state of Manipur, Tripura, and Meghalaya, where there are no female judges, women often face problem in even taking up their case to the court. This is the 21st century, where women are acing every field, whether it is military, business, medical, politics, educational, social, or cultural fields. Then why women are still confronting gender biasness, gender stereotyping, and discrimination specifically in judiciary? So, women need to be represented in reality, not only on papers for formality.
Hence, this paper is challenging the vox populi that women cannot be the part of the justice system in India. But we cannot deny the fact that if a woman, be it a daughter, wife, sister, etc., can alone take up the responsibilities for regulating and managing the household chores constantly with perfection, so think if a woman is provided with all the support, resources, opportunities, and places to work without any discrimination, how well she'll perform.
Now we would like to say a few lines written by Priya Bishnoi, student, Mody University, School of Law.
हे भारत भूमि तेरे भूतकाल में ये महिलाएं कहाँ मोहताज थी, रजिया भी करती थी न्याय, तब भी भूमि पुरुष प्रधान थी. न्याय की देवी खड़ी थी वहाँ, न्याय की देवी खड़ी थी वहाँ, आंखों पर लाल रुमाल थी. जब सुना मैंने गौर से तो पुरुषों की आवाज थी. हे भारत भूमि तेरे भूतकाल में यह महिलाएं कहाँ मोहताज थी. थैंक यू.
Thank you so much. The next presenters are Ms. Divyankshi Mathur and Ms. Aparna Tyagi from Mody University.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Dean Sir, dignitaries, teachers, and our spectators. Today, I, Divyankshi Mathur and Aparna Tyagi, student of Mody University, would like to present our paper on the topic Inadequate Women Healthcare, a Human Right Issue. Article 21 of Indian Constitution confers the right to health care to every person in India. However, there are huge inequalities in availability of adequate health care for women, which as a result promotes gender inequality. The adequate health care of women is of great significance as men and women are two main wheels of economy which together drive towards development. The main factors behind all these issues is large rate of illiteracy, the pedantic thinking prevalent in society. A woman is a life giver, and if she is deprived of necessary health care, the progeny of nation will be impacted adversely. This paper will deal with the problem of inequalities, inaccessibility, and unavailability of healthcare services to women. It also endeavors to find out solution to the problems.
In order to improve inadequate health of women, following measures can be taken. like providing education, as education is the panacea of all the problems. Education and awareness would lead a woman to live a healthy and productive life. Empowering women would make her self-reliant and will enhance her accessibility and affordability of healthcare services. Paid menstruation leave policy should be introduced in both private and public institutions, as periods pain can be as bad as having a heart attack. The right to rest should be respected. For this, menstruation benefit bill tabled in Lok Sabha in 2017 should be brought into effect. Female genital mutilation, which is one of the farcical abuse to human rights, should be completely banned in all countries around the world. Private companies should provide health insurance coverage to women to prevent uncertainties, as women are more susceptible to develop critical disease like anemia, arthritis, breast cancer, etc. Concluding this, in today's time, the health of women is improving, as governments are taking positive measures towards the issue of inadequate health care. Like in India, the state has introduced several policies like Pradhan Mantri Vandana Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Surakshit Matritva Abhiyan, Sanities, Janani Suraksha Yojana, etc., which aim to provide sanitary napkins to promote hygiene and to reduce maternal deaths. As a matter of constitutional right, inadequate health care should be provided to every person, including women. As Dr. B.R. Ambedkar once said, by checking the health of our women, one can determine the health of society. Thank you.
Thank you. The next presenters are from Mody University, Ms. Niharika Beniwal and Ms. Kajal Yadav.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Niharika Beniwal. Along with my partner Kajal Yadav, I am here to present our paper on the topic Domestic Violence, a Breach of Human Rights. There has been a constant rise of awareness regarding remedies for domestic violence in recent years. Yet, the situation is that many victims still choose to compromise and are stuck in the toxic cycle of violence. The biggest issue we face with control over domestic violence is the societal attitude towards it. When a woman reaches out to another member in the society, the response is that violence is very natural and it happens to everybody. The society also discriminates against victims of domestic violence. They are perceived as weak, incapable of fighting for themselves, and someone not strong-willed enough to do important tasks of society.
There is a ton of scope for improvement in this situation. It is widely known that knowledge is a power. Spreading awareness is the first step toward improvement. Support from the fellow member of society is much needed, as a little spark can cause a wildfire. What the victim needs is that little spark to stand up strong. It's been decades that we are working toward empowering women, but the changes are very minimal in the comparison of the efforts. The time is now ripe. Legislation can work much to demoralize domestic violence, whereas social, political, economic elements contribute toward escalation of domestic violence. What is acceptable and unacceptable in the society should be clearly conveyed to the society. What we need is a change in the perspective of society toward women, as masculinity cannot be the only option of comparison. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenters are Ms. Sarika and Ms. Astha Harshwal from Mody University.
Good morning, one and all present here. This is Astha and this is my co-author Sarika. We are here to present our paper titled Raising the Marital Age for Women, a Statutory Concern. Now, let's head on towards the first objective of this paper, which is to review the present implementation of the existing law and need of a new legislation. According to the UNICEF report of 2021, at least 1.5 million girls under 18 get married in India, which makes it home to the largest number of child marriages in the world. Now, I wonder how this bill is going to reduce this huge data by just increasing the age if the existing law with the 18 years of minimum marital age cannot prove to be efficient. The second objective is to evaluate the women's rights and their place in the proposed bill. With the better implementation strategies, this bill can do wonder in preventing the early age pregnancies, which then lead to increase in infant mortality rate and maternal mortality rate. Now, the next set of objectives will be dealt by my co-author.
Heading towards the second implication of the bill, increasing marital age for women can be considered as relevant move for providing more educational opportunities. But then these objectives highly contradicts with the government policies, as in the recent budget of 2021, only 3.1% of the resources have been allocated to the educational sector. However, this is not the only one of contention. A major question arises out of this amendment. That is whether the bill is protecting the fundamental right to marry a person of choice. If the bill got passed, it would be legal to have sexual relation, but illegal to marry for those between 18 to 21 years of age. And this would ultimately lead us to the problems like honor killing and female feticides. Hence, we all are stuck in a magnetic loop of female health in relation with its marital age. Now, at the end, I would like to conclude that marriage is an institution and not a situation of age. There are many other things need to be considered. And if we look currently, we have plenty of laws. The only need is to adopt the rational ways to implement them. And furthermore, if we talk about women empowerment, it is just a myth. We are already empowered. It is said that girl with the dream become a woman with vision. May we all empower each other to carry out such vision, because it isn't simply enough to talk about equality. One must believe in it, and it isn't simply enough to believe in it. One must work at it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next presenters are Ms. Pragya Sharma and Ms. Khushi Praveen Jain from School of Law, Mody University.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I, Khushi Praveen Jain, and my co-author Pragya Sharma would like to present our topic on the domestic violence against women in India.
It was just a slap. This happened in every house. She must have done something to provoke him. How many times you actually heard people justifying domestic violence against women? The term domestic violence against women means any act, omission, or control of the respondent which has potential to injure or hurt women physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, and economically within the four walls of house. In India, the Indian Penal Code was amended in 1983 to make cruelty by a woman's husband or in-laws punishable offense. However, dowry-related cruelty or extreme cruelty defined as that which could cause grave injury or injury to a woman to suicide. Then in 2005, a landmark legislation finally extended the definition of domestic violence to include verbal, emotional, economic, and sexual abuse. But despite these progressive steps in the laws, domestic violence remains highly prevalent. In fact, research shows that 42% of men and 52% of women believe that it is reasonable for a man to beat his wife. Challenging against domestic violence is not just about questioning the physical act of violence, but it is about dismantling the structural disempowerment women face within their marriage and families. Now, Khushi will conclude.
As it is said by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar that a person who tolerates injustice is more at fault than the person who inflicts injustice. So, if a woman wants to be free from domestic violence, then she herself needs to raise a voice against such crime. Thus, we as a part of the society, having the knowledge of the crime and the remedies against it, must take a step towards protecting the victims. Hence, at last, I would like to conclude by saying that if the factors violating women's rights like patriarchy, cultural factors, regional factors, dowry, etc. can be controlled by the awareness, by the active participation of society, by conducting the programs, by changing the mentality of the family towards the women, by teaching them not to suffer and to raise voice against them, then with these initiatives, some form of domestic violence can be prevented and society will become a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenters are Ms. Tamanna Pasi and Ms. Sonal Singh from School of Law, Mody University.
Good afternoon, respected dignitaries and my dear aspiring lawyers. I am Tamanna Pasi.
And I am Sonal Singh from second year.
Today, we are going to present our research paper on the topic
Silence for Violence,
a Social Poison. The teams expressed their views prior to us and they were extremely amazing and informative.
More than 1 in 3 women globally have reported experiencing sexual and physical violence.
We are all inextricably linked to society. Our perceptions are destined to be influenced by established norms and patterns.
And by these norms and patterns, we mean that women are second citizens of society and they are not given the respect and rights they truly deserve.
Often, it has been observed that women are seen as commodities to promote marketing and as an object of want and desire.
Men's insecurities, ego, and chauvinistic attitude leads to their charging behavior. A woman's job is just to follow the societal norms, cook, take care of the house and family, and stay indoors.
लड़की का महत्वाकांक्षी होना, सपने पूरे करना, पढ़ाई करना, घर से बाहर जाकर नौकरी करना, ये सब तो हमारे समाज के अनुसार एक पाप है.
Now some of you must be wondering, what are we doing here? Aren't we the oppressed women?
जी हाँ, हम प्रताड़ित नहीं हैं. जैसे हमारे माँ बाप ने हमें उड़ान दी है, हमारी मनोकामना है कि बाकी सभी औरतों को भी वो उड़ान मिले.
As quoted by one of the teams, it was well said by Malala Yousaf.
Two powerful weapons in world are sword and pen.
But something which is more powerful is an educated woman.
We are not here to define rape, domestic violence, feticide, but to determine the root cause of such problems and to combat them.
The media plays a key role in the battle for violence against women. As the society's eyes, ears, and limbs, the media plays a significant role in reducing violence against women.
It should expose and raise consciousness about society's flaws and injustices.
श्री देवी का आखिरी डांस,
मौत का बाथटब,
शराब के नशे में चली गई दुनिया से चांदनी.
These were the lines stated by the Indian media on the sad demise of Srimati Sri Devi. And it was well criticized by First Post.
Women have had a crucial influence in the success of Indian film industry. Their roles have evolved with time from relying on their male counterparts to moving the tale ahead on their own.
Some renowned movies in the context are Chapak, Thappad and Pink.
Also, the comments made in regard of women by some of our renowned representatives are extremely disheartening.
On the rape of a minor girl, one stated she was habituated to sexual intercourse and was already in a relationship with a rapist.
Other instance of the sort is, when rape is inevitable, lie down and enjoy.
यही है हमारे representatives की छोटी सोच. We, the researchers, have critically analyzed the role of media, reporting, film industry, and people's perception in addressing such issues.
The proposals suggested are
effective functioning of fast-track courts,
strict penalty impositions,
spreading awareness amongst the society,
establishing women improvement strategies.
In conclusion, she must not accept but confront.
The aim was not to target a certain group of people, but to address the atrocities faced by women and the need to combat them.
It is high time that women should be given back the possession of rights they naturally own and that are bestowed upon them by the Holy Indian Constitution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next presenters are Ms. Aishwarya Bhatia and Ms. Varsha Tomar from School of Law, Mody University.
Yatra naryastu pujyante ramante tatra devatam. Where women are worshipped, there the gods rejoice. Women empowerment can make the society powerful. By this, I would like to introduce myself, Aishwarya Bhatia, along with my co-author Varsha Tomar, to present on the topic Economic Imbalance in Women During COVID-19. The status of women in terms of economic empowerment, and it is under this umbrella that we convene here today as we saw the third wave of the global COVID-19 pandemic. It really is more important that even before to bring to the forefront the important issues surrounding women's economic empowerment in the health and care sectors. Women have had the brunt of increased unpaid work. Indian working women were the worst impacted by the pandemic across all demographic segments in India. How has COVID-19 pandemic impacted women's employment in India? Wage inequality and the duty of unpaid childcare have pushed women out of employment and into poverty. More women have lost jobs around the world, particularly in India during COVID-19. Only 7% of men lost their jobs during the first lockdown in 2020, according to a recent study by the Center for Sustainable Employment at Azim Premji University in India, compared to 47% of women who lost their jobs and did not return to work by the end of the year.
Now let's see what are the global gender gap score for 2021. The global gender score for 2021 is 67.7% based on the population weighted average for each of 156 economies examined in 2021. Only 22.3% of women work in India, resulting in a 72% gap in labor forces. While census on hours spent on unpaid work by men and women, primarily domestic and volunteer work, shows that women spend at least twice as much time on these tasks as men. Data analysis shows that a woman spent at least pandemic time were main reason for the work to reduce working hour or labor participation as well as childcare responsibility while falling on them. Now let's see how can we support a women and girls during and after COVID-19 crisis. Firstly, the policy investment and action must be better shaped and targeted at women and girls in order to recover from COVID-19. UN Women has worked with the government and grassroots organization to work with food, personal protective equipment and monetary aid to provide women with the access of education and vocational training via digital remote learning as well as assistance with finding work and creatives. Now, although women faced lot during a COVID-19 crisis, but we cannot neglect the word as quoted by Justice Greening, that no country can truly develop there its half of the population is left behind. So we cannot just focus on the men's of the society. Her development is more important in a nation growth. Our constitution in India, Article 14, 16 Clause 1 and 39 Clause D includes for economic equality irrespective of sex, gender, caste and class. Last but not the least, I would like to conclude by saying that we are one world, one people, and at least belief leads to the conclusion that we just cannot turn our back on the human suffering. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next presenters are Aditi Agarwal and Rakshita Singh from Mody University.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I, Rakshita Singh,
and I, Aditi Agrawal,
are here to present a paper and throw some light on the much neglected topic, sexual and reproductive health of women. So, we should first know that what sexual and reproductive health is. Different experts and organizations have given different definitions. From all the definitions, what we can understand is that the health of an individual that deals with his or her sexual and reproductive well-being during all the stages of his or her life. Every day, a girl has to face some hurdles when it comes to the essence of education. Education is a basic human right, but still there are many places where a girl is denied of her right. It is more likely for a man to be more educated and get good opportunities in every possible field, though it's not true in all the cases.
Gender-based violence against women has crossed all the boundaries and is pervasive and has adverse effect on the sexual and reproductive health. Female genital mutilation or female circumcision being one such way of violence. It is an age-old practice in which the genitals of a young girl are totally or partially removed or stitched for non-medical reasons. Females become vulnerable to sex and poverty, which in turn creates danger of being denied to their human rights. Now coming towards the end, from what we have discussed, a woman has to face hardships throughout her life for her survival, for the recognition of her rights. They struggle to make their ends meet. UNFPA, United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency, being one of the organizations which aims to have a world where no pregnancy is unwanted, no childbirth is unsafe, and the potential of every young person is being fully utilized. Initiatives and steps towards equality and recognition of women's rights as human rights are taken so that they are not taken as separate terms. Hence, the proper implementation of these steps is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Vidisha Rathore from Mody University.
Good morning, all of you. My topic is women equality
and equal status in society. To not talking about the world, but talking about India. That in India, we have a patriarchal system in the society that man told that woman is a commodity and treat just to feed her and taking the household, take care of the household and children only. The word feminist is all people think about it, it's very bad word because they think it is a brutal and it is hatred word. Women just only wanted the equal and simple life that a man has already living in a society from years and years. Women just wanted to go to the job and come back and take care of these children, not only, but women wanted to treat her equally, the man treated from years and years. The cases from 2019 to 2020 or 22, they tell that in the situation of COVID, the cases reported 82 cases are reported in India. The equality still not in India because the cases show that people are not giving the respect equally and not treating equally. In India, we should have the consensus of slavery so that the man should be gentleman towards the woman and not treating her like a commodity. So the respect, if you give the respect, it doesn't mean that your respect is less, but showing the chivalry concept is very important. And from the childhood, we have to teach our children that morality appoints to opposite gender. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last presenters are Arjav Rajvi and Palak Sikarwar from Mody University.
A very good afternoon to everyone present here. My name is Palak Sikarwar and my co-presenter is Arjav Rajvi. Our paper is entitled Legal Framework on Surrogacy in India. The recent ban on commercial surrogacy has led to a lot of hardships in the life of surrogate mothers, as they are not left with any alternative means of livelihood. Moreover, the new Surrogacy Regulation Act of 2021 has added to their turmoil by imposing a limitation on their right to make reproductive choices, which falls within the ambit of Article 21. It has infringed their right to personal liberty by putting a restriction on them, as they can become a surrogate mother only once in their lifetime, that too within a specific age limit of 25 to 35 years. The mandatory condition on the surrogate to be legally married with a child of her own should not act as a barrier. The act is also discriminatory to the homosexual community, as it allows only legally married couples to become intending couples.
The allowance of altruistic surrogacy, along with the restrictions such as the surrogate mother has to be a close relative of the intending couple, has led to a dilemmatic scenario that has narrowed down the possibility of having a healthy child. Besides, the intending couple should not have a child of their own, either biologically or through adoption or through any earlier surrogacy. Therefore, I would like to conclude by saying that the regulation of the ban on commercial surrogacy should be removed and it should be regulated, as it is a win-win situation for both the parties involved in surrogacy process and procedure. The barren gets a baby and the broke gets a bonus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. I would like to thank every single person present here for giving your valuable time to make this seminar a successful one.
Now I would like to request our chairperson to end this session with his concluding remarks.
Hello. Hello.
नमस्कार सभी को। काफ़ी अच्छा लगा यहाँ पर आकर के, और जो स्टूडेंट ने जो प्रेजेंट किया वो डिफरेंट जो सब्जेक्ट्स थे, इस पर किसी ने सरोगेसी पे, राइट टू प्राइवेसी, जजेज, नंबर ऑफ जजेज आर लेस इन द जुडिशरी, डिफरेंट। तो एक चाइना में एक प्रोवर्ब है कि हमें हज़ारों मील की यात्रा है वो सिंगल स्टेप से शुरू करते हैं। 1000 माइल्स जर्नी स्टार्ट विद सिंगल स्टेप। तो नो डाउट काफ़ी चीज़ें हैं यहाँ पर जो मैक्सिमम जो है उन्होंने कहा है कि भाई ये नहीं है वो नहीं है, नो डाउट वो चीज़ भी सही है, लेकिन हमें सेम टाइम वी शुड नॉट फॉरगेट दैट बहुत सी चीज़ें हैं वो हुई है विमेन के लिए। काफ़ी जो अच्छी जो सिचुएशन, आज जो आप यहाँ बैठे हैं वो 30-40 साल पहले तक ये सिचुएशन नहीं हो सकती थी। आज मैं जिस यूनिवर्सिटी से आया हूँ या प्रीवियस यूनिवर्सिटी पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी थी, वहाँ का जो लॉ डिपार्टमेंट है, वहाँ का जो लॉ डिपार्टमेंट 3 ईयर या 5 ईयर है। वहाँ पर पहले जो भरत जी भी बैठे थे यहाँ पर, उस डिपार्टमेंट के अंदर सिर्फ 3 या 4 जो मेल फैकल्टी होंगे और रेस्ट ऑफ ऑल फीमेल फैकल्टी। यही हाल 3 ईयर के अंदर है। अब हम मेल को ये कहना पड़ेगा कि हमें रिजर्वेशन चाहिए आने वाले टाइम में। तो इस तरह की बात नहीं है कि भाई कि कुछ भी नहीं है, काफ़ी कुछ अच्छा हो रहा है। हाँ, ये नहीं कि बिल्कुल ही सारी की सारी चीज़ें प्रॉब्लम है वो सॉल्व हो गई है। अब जहाँ आप जुडिशरी की बात कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पर आरजेएस का जो एग्ज़ाम हो रहा है, अब वहाँ पर मैक्सिमम जो गर्ल्स हैं वो आ रही हैं। और सीआरपीसी के अंदर अमेंडमेंट भी हो गया है अब कि जो इससे रिलेटेड जो हिनियस जो ये ऑफेंसेज हैं, उनसे रिलेटेड जो ऑफेंसेज है उनका जो प्रिजाइड करेगा वो वुमेन जज ही करेगी। और जो पुलिस फोर्सेज है वहाँ पर भी यही आपके महिला थाना है। हरियाणा के अंदर बहुत से हैं जो महिला थाना है और यहाँ पर भी हैं। तो ये चीज़ें हैं वो काफ़ी हो रही है, इम्प्रूवमेंट हो रहा है। तो हमें ये नहीं कि भाई कुछ नहीं है, बहुत कुछ चीज़ें हो रही है। तो हमें इन चीज़ों को नज़रअंदाज है वो नहीं करना चाहिए। और इसके अलावा कि इनको करेगा कौन, इन चीज़ों को जो गैप है इसको फुलफिल कौन करेगा, तो इन चीज़ों पर काम हमें ही करना है। आप जो बैठे हैं आपको ही काम करना है, कोई दूसरे यहाँ से नहीं आएंगे ये काम करने के लिए। तो इस और आपके जो राइट्स हैं उनके बारे में हमें हमेशा जो है वो जागरूक रहना चाहिए। और सेम टाइम हमें जो अपनी ड्यूटीज़ हैं, ड्यूटीज़ का भी हमें है वो ऑनर करना चाहिए। क्योंकि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अंदर हमेशा आज सवेरे से बोला जा रहा है कि फंडामेंटल राइट अंडर पार्ट 3, लेकिन वहाँ पर एक ड्यूटीज़ का भी चैप्टर है, वो भी हमें है वो ध्यान रखना चाहिए। और राइट्स और ड्यूटीज़, आप लॉ के स्टूडेंट है, वो हमेशा ही साथ चलते हैं। तो यदि मैं आपका राइट है वो प्रोटेक्ट कर रहा हूँ तो आपकी भी उस टाइम कोई ड्यूटी बनती है। तो इन चीज़ों को हमें ध्यान में रखते हुए आगे काम करना है। और ये देश हमेशा ये समझना है कि अपना ही है, किसी और का नहीं है। आज इस कंट्री में यही चीज़ें हो रही है कि नहीं ये क्या है, ये गवर्नमेंट प्रॉपर्टी है, इसका हो जाएगा, ठीक है, वो चीज़ है, ऐसा कोई सेमिनार हो रहा होगा, मेरे को क्या लेना देना है, वो हमें ही लेना देना है। तो इसलिए इन चीज़ों को, और इस यूनिवर्सिटी के अंदर आपके जो है यहाँ पर बड़ा अच्छा लगा। कई डिसिप्लिन चीज़ें यहाँ पर मेरे को पता लगी। वो कई लोग सोचते हैं कि वो रिस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं, वो सही नहीं, वो बहुत अच्छे हैं कि आप लकी हैं कि यहाँ आकर के आपके इस तरह माहौल में आप रह रहे हैं और आपके पेरेंट्स ने आपको यहाँ भेजा है। तो और आगे अच्छी आप फील्ड में जाएं और अच्छी तरह से पढ़ें आप। थैंक यू, थैंक यू।
Thank you, sir.
So it's time to acknowledge the contribution and dedication of all these members who have so significantly contributed to make this seminar a successful one. I now request Honorable Dean Sir, Mody University, to please come on the stage and present our chairperson, Dr. Dharampal Singh Punia, Assistant Professor of Law in Central University, Haryana, Mahendragarh, with a memento as a token of our gratitude and appreciation. Thank you, sir.
I now request Honorable Dean, School of Law, to present our co-chairperson, R.S. Solanki, Honorable Head of Department, Mody University, with a memento as a token of our gratitude. Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to call the panelists of our first session to be escorted by our students on the stage to be presented with the mementos. I now request Honorable Dean Sir to felicitate the chairperson for the first session, Professor Dr. Madhu Shastri, former Dean, Amity University, with a memento as a token of our gratitude and appreciation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I now request our Honorable Dean, sir, to felicitate the co-chair, Dr. Shushma Gaur, Principal, St. Wilfred's College, Jaipur, with a memento as our gratitude.
Thank you, sir. I now request our Honorable Dean, School of Law, to felicitate the co-chair, Dr. Bharat, Assistant Professor, Chandigarh University, with a memento as a token of our gratitude and appreciation. Now, I request Dean Sir to present an award for the best speaker of the seminar to our alumni, Ms. Shraddha Sharma, who is an advocate in Jaipur, Rajasthan. As all good things come to an end, in ordinary life we hardly realize that we have received a great deal more than we can give, and it is only with gratitude that life becomes rich. On this note, we would like to express our immense gratitude to the panel of eminent luminaries for gracing us with their esteemed and remarkable presence and for enlightening us with their words of wisdom. I humbly request Dr. R.S. Solanki, respected head of Department School of Law, to deliver the vote of thanks for this national seminar.
A very good evening to all of you. Myself, Dr. R.S. Solanki, Head of Department School of Law, feel honored and privileged to get this opportunity to propose vote of thanks on this special occasion of National Seminar on Women's Rights. Now, for whole of the day, we have heard a lot about the rights of the women, and also that whether all the women's rights are human rights or not, and whether it is a myth or reality. Now, as in the morning session also, Honorable President, Mr. Dashoraji also said one thing, that it is very difficult to say whether all women's rights are human rights or not. And it is often said that in between the colors of black and white, there are more than 60 shades of grey. And so, I firmly believe that this seminar is just starting, and we should also have some more seminars of this kind to create more awareness about the women and their rights. Again, when we see this word women, I see this word women from two angles. This spelling of women itself creates a sense of curiosity in my mind, in the sense that whosoever who has coined this word women, I think there is a firm belief in this word that he himself is believing when he says women, that women themselves are saying that we are men, and please don't differentiate us with men. At the same time, again, when we see this word from another angle, another dimension, what we see is that man is not separate from women, in the sense that in the spelling of women itself, man is part of the word women. And so, when these kind of topics which we see in the society, always we wonder that are we really there in 2022, the time where still we are talking about the rights of women. In fact, it should not have been the topic of discussion in the era we are living in. Anyway, to summarize the events of this seminar, before proceeding further for thanks of notes, I would like to quote Michelle Obama, first woman of US during the Obama regime. To quote her, there is no limit to what we as a woman one can accomplish, and that tells us the whole story and truth about the women. Now, again, as a head of department, since I am privileged enough to express the gratitude and vote of thanks, I would like to start with the quote of William Arthur. Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. So it becomes quite obvious that at the end of the seminar, we should have something like vote of thanks also. And so, first of all, I would like to thank Chief Guest Ma'am Jyotika Kalaraji, first women member NHRC, our keynote speaker Professor Vijay Singh Ji Sejapati Ji, Dean Tribhuvan University, Nepal, and all the resource persons of the seminar, Ma'am Madhu Shastri Ji, Dr. Sushma Gaud, Principal St. Wilfrid College, Jaipur, Dr. Punia Ji, a former colleague of mine in Jaipur National University, and now the Associate Professor in Central University of Haryana, Dr. Shobna Jeet, and Dr. Bharat, Assistant Professor, Chandigarh University. Words are never enough to thank for the constant guide and support of our mentors to shape up the things. I, on behalf of the organizing committee, convey deep regards and hearty thanks to our chairman, Honorable Shri Rajendra Prasad Mody Ji, President Professor P.K. Dashora Ji, Director Professor Rajiv Mathur Sir. I would like to especially thank our Dean, a father figure, Professor Satish Chandra Ji Shastri Sir, for his constant help, guidance and support that radicated a source of energy within all of us. Sir, we will always ever remain grateful to you. I am very much thankful to all the participants who have made this program a very successful one. So I warmly welcome all the guests who are present here, and few of them I personally know also. So I welcome Bhushan sir, welcome you sir, and all the dignitaries and participants who attended the seminar and graced the occasion. An event of this kind, this dimension cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling months in advance. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very, very motivated and dedicated students, all the colleagues of mine. So thank you, all of you, the faculty of law, teaching members, as well as all the non-teaching members and the staff members. At the same time, in the morning session also, being the faculty of the department, I was glad and very fortunate when I heard from the guest, when they repeatedly, constantly, they told one thing, that the students of School of Law, they are so knowledgeable that many times when even the question was not being asked, the sense was of such kind that they were able to know what might be the question and what is the answer for that, and that is truly very, very amazing. So thank you so much, all the students of law and all the committee members who have worked so hard, effortlessly, and so thanks you once again. And at last, I would apologize if I could not have named anybody because of what might be the reason. If I could have not specifically mentioned about any student or any participants, I apologize for that. But I would appreciate and I would like to conclude that it was the contribution of all the faculties, staff, and all the dear students. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Now everyone is requested to kindly stand up for national anthem.
गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय